sent by the Office of the City Local Government Operations Officer of Santiago City. And it reads, please be informed that as a result of the Liga ng mga Barangay Santiago City Chapter Election conducted yesterday, December 18, 2013, at the bulwagan ng mga mamamayan, Honorable Elsie P. Chay, Punong Barangay of Tubinan West, Santiago City was elected as the President. In this connection, and as provided for by the Public Act 7160, Section 41, Paragraph B, he shall represent the Liga ng mga Barangay at Sangguniang Panlungsod as an ex-official member. For your information and reference, very truly yours, Agnes A. De Leon, CMG Po. On behalf of the Sangguniang Panlungsod of Santiago City, we welcome the Honorable Elsie Chay as a member of this August body. Of the record, meron kasing tradisyon. Pero hindi ngayon busog na.
Akala ko diretso hapchan tayo.
January na.
Magiging pa naman tayo. Sasabihin na lang nila sa akin yun din. Ako na magsasabi. Anyway, we ask the Honorable Chay to say a few words.
Marami na rin yun. Nagdagdagan pa. Walang ibo.
Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Lalo po kay Honorable Vice Kamukan sa kasapan sa Member ng Council kay Sir Kamukan kay iba pa po dito. Bago lang po dito dito na po na ikaliyan sabihin na nakangapapa pa ako dito na hindi ko pa rin kabisado kung anong karanasan. Pero sinabi ko po na makakatulong din po sa inyo bilang membro ng council. Maraming salamat.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
Welcome to the club. Yung mga walang ibo.
I am now turning over the chairmanship of this session to the Honorable Councilor Rita Perez.
Thank you, Sir Vice Mayor. At this point, we shall continue with the session on what will be considered will be the programs and projects to be funded out of the proposed 1 billion loan. So we're now giving the floor to the CPTO to start her presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the members of the Honorable Council. We will present to you the development projects under the 1 billion loan, and I will be assisted here by Engineer Gonzalo for the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Breakdown the proposed list of 1 billion project consists of the city hospital, amounting to 250 million, sports complex amounting to 160 million, convention center amounting to 150 million, Pamantasan Lungsod ng Santiago amounting to 50 million, City Airport Terminal 50 million, purchase of construction equipment 100 million, road construction rehabilitation with road right of the lot of 3 for the differential roads, segment 2, 3, and 4. 120 million. Land banking, 100 million. Debt servicing, 30 million. Total of 1 million. The proposed list is included in the year as the loan capacity standard set for the city. And these projects will be again discussed, which we will be what to be prioritized for say, in each project, more detailed presentation will be presented to the council. So for today's agenda, we will be presenting what was more or less concept like presentation of the proposed project.
What will be the first project that you will be presenting? Yes po.
If I may, before we proceed to that, first we should be informed of the rationale of or the purpose why we are including in budget the 1 billion external sourcing of the city government. First of all, being with the mayor most of the time, his vision is such that the purpose of this augmentation of 1 billion to the regular budget is to support and make fast the development of Santiago City. And having the opportunity to have this external debt in connection with the banks that we have consulted regarding this matter. We are taking the opportunity to put this together with the regular budget. Minsan nga, sinasabi natin kung merong pupunta sa Amerika na nag-abroad, in 3 to 6 months time, meron na silang bahay or meron na silang sasakyan. For reasons that with their salary and their top financing or their credit background will support the financing of such items. Dito sa atin, kung disweldo ka lang, hindi ka makakakuha ng bahay kaagad. Hindi ka makakakuha ng sasakyan kaagad. But the picture of financing comes in for reasons that the same principle is being adopted by the city mayor. We know for a fact that he comes from the private sector. Galing siya sa private sector. He is a businessman, and this is the first time only that he is in the public sector. And as such, he wants to take advantage of this opportunity of using others' money so that we could jumpstart the progress of Santiago, the development of Santiago. So that in this picture or in this with his experience, he knows that with the limited resources that we have, perhaps we say na mataas yung ira natin, mataas ang ira natin, halos na parehas ng province of Isabela, but you will note that we can use only 20% of our economic development fund. Kaya ang mangyayari, utay-utay yung mga projects natin. When the EDF for 180 million was presented, nakita naman ninyo, phase 1 palagi ang i-apply ng mga previous administration. For reasons that we have a limited fund to use for these projects. And the mayor or the executive officer envisions that kung gagawa tayo ng project that would propel Santiago into a higher level in development and serve as the business hub of the region, kailangan paspasan natin for reasons na kailangan mag-augment tayo, manghiram tayo ng that's it, 1 billion. And for that matter, tayong lahat, we share in the yung hirap natin magdaan dun sa city streets ngayon, dun sa principal roads. And yung traffic condition, meron nga akong kaibigan from Pondon, it takes only 3 minutes to reach Lubinan, but when he cross the city limits, 30 minutes ang naubos niya bago he goes out of the city limits. And that is actually one of the problems of Santiago City, which we failed perhaps to anticipate in the past. I know for a fact that the project, the circumferential road, with segment 1 up to 4, has been envisioned 30 years ago. Yung mga iba sa ating mga masya, hindi pa siguro pinapanganak. Pinag-aaralan na po yan ng Santiago. And for that matter, I want to relate to you the matter that even Gerson Alvarez, when he was a senator, and when he was once a congressman of District 4, was helping us in this diversion project. Also, the Mayor Antonio Abaya, together with the Municipal Administrator Nick Bautista, knows about this plan already. And imagine that it's got us 13 years or even more. And Santiago City being a prime city, which is 20 years old by 2014, hindi tayo masyadong makakagalaw. And one thing included in that augmentation is the diversion road. Will you flash the PowerPoint for the Santiago City diversion road? Ayan, medyo palaki mo. This project, the road construction, is being appropriated the amount of 120 million. Pwede mas malaki pa para makita nila yung yung segment 1, 2, and 3. Yan. And Engineer Rosal will guide us to aling portion yung segment number 1. This is a NEDA approved project. But we waited for so long and only the first segment is being given to us. The segmented circumferential road. Yung one being undertaken.
Engineer, kindly describe to us yung sinasabi ni turn up pertaining to the segment 1. Debate of this will be funded by the DPWH. So saan papasok dyan ang proposed law?
Proposed law is for segments 2, 3, and 4.
The proposal is 2, 3, and 4. Segment 1 is being undertaken by the DPWH, and it will start from Sinsayon, going along Buena Vista, and then goes to Rizal. Diba? Segment 2, which is being supported now by the proposed 1 billion loan, will start from Rizal, going to Pirat Road, segment 2, Sinsayon to Baluarte. And then segment 3 is Baluarte to Batal. And segment 4 is Batal to join to the DPWH project to Rizal. So it is a circuitous road that will define also the possible progress of Santiago in the next 10 years. You see, Santiago City is such that parang suman napahaba lang na niya, and all developments are along City Road and the National Road. With this development, the development of Santiago will expand, not only in the north side and the south side, but on the eastern side, that is Baluarte, Nabuan, and on the western side, that is Rizal, Batal. And with this project implemented, we shall experience a lighter traffic in the city road and in the national road. We can perhaps control the big vehicles not to pass from the city road. So that's the first project in the loan. Of course, together with that project is the land banking, which is given a 100 million operation in anticipation of a possible advantage of the city government regarding the land along these open roads, new open roads, including of course the payment of the right-of-way doon mga sasagasaan pa. In this connection, ang output na possible aside from making our traffic lighter than what is now, ang isang output niyan I was telling Councilor Navy, we could perhaps impose toll fees in this road so that it can also augment our finances or the income of the city government. So, the next one is the establishment of
Before
the...
we continue, may questions po pertaining to, ang unang discuss is the diversion law. The first part, the rationale or why the city will be is proposing for a loan, or the executive is proposing a loan. I will explain the head executive assistant from the executive department, and then we went on to discuss the diversion law. May karagdagan ba tungkol doon, Engineer Reconcile? Okay. So, may tanong po before we continue sa iba pang programs. Ilang programs ba ito under the proposed law? I hope you can furnish us with the list sana na may breakdown each one kasi what you have presented. Yes, nandito po, pero for the purpose of deliberation, baka pwede makihingi no breakdown ng 1 million. Okay, pasirox na lang po natin.
What I can add is this, the segment 2, that is Sinsayon to Baluarte, is a 5.8 kilometer road of 20 meters width, di ba? 20, ang details niya. Yung segment 3 is 4.4 kilometer, also 20 meters width. And the fourth segment is 3.4 kilometers, at 20 meters width.
Discuss lang sa'yo lahat muna.
Discuss na lang muna, mamaya na ang tanong. Okay, sige. What is the next project?
The next I want to present is the establishment of the Pino Memorial Hospital proposed, which will be given an appropriation of 250 million. Yung wala po tayong yeah, which will be located at Baluarte. Well, we know the importance of health, particularly those Santagueños who are capable of meeting with the high fees of the government. Dito sa hospital po ay kagaya ng flagship na sinasabi ni Mayor nung oras ng kampanya, libreng hospital para sa mahihirap. But we know that to undertake a hospital for that matter will be very expensive kung hindi income generating. With the requirement that all must be PhilHealth members with PhilHealth accreditation of this hospital, we will be deriving income from it through PhilHealth refund coming from the Philippine Health, which will serve as the income generation of this hospital. Yung mga maliliit na kaso lang ang ating papasukan dyan. Yung mga bibigat, ipapabahagi natin or we refer it to other hospitals who have the better capability of attending to these complicated cases of health. Kaya yung maliliit lang. And yung PhilHealth, binabayaran nila yung portion na sinusolder ng PhilHealth. Yun ang sustain yung perhaps the personal services of the doctors who is behaving there. Now we go to the pamantasan ng lungsod ng Santiago or the Santiago City Polytechnic College, which is appropriated the amount of 50 million. Pamantasan ng lungsod ng Santiago, 50 million. And then the next one is the Santiago City Sports Complex. The next. Why the sports complex?
Sports and convention.
Evacuation center. Evacuation center ang mga
Of course, we know the reason why we need the sports complex. The mayor has always made the importance of the sports, and this is putting our city into a picture of a developed city which tries to develop sports to the positive levels. With this, we can invite sports events also, which may come from our national players. And at the same time, it has also the capacity to generate income for the city. Ang susunod ay yung Santiago City Convention Center, which is appropriated the amount of 150 million. Ayan. Coming from the private sector, and now that I'm in the public service, with the private sector is one thing that Santiago should be the center of conventions. We lack these facilities. In fact, measures for that matter would like to have the convention in Santiago, but we don't have this facility. We don't have big hotels. But if we have this, considering that this proposal of the convention center has the capacity of 4,000 delegates, accommodate 4,000 delegates, and with, say, a pocket money of 5,000 when they come here for their convention, that means an income of about 20 million entering our city and remaining in the city through their payment of hotels and other things that where they will spend the 5,000 pesos to them. Kaya it will be income generating also. Baka pwede ipaliwanag ni Engineer Reconsal yung perspective at saka yung convention center.
the sports and convention center are adjacent to each other. Ito po yung parang sports convention center, sports center, yun yung convention center. Perspective. So magkatabi po sila. The convention hall will sit on a 5,000 square meter area, and the sports stadium will be on a 7,000 square meter. The stadium will be having a capacity of 16,000.
Correct?
16,000.
The convention.
Sports.
The sports.
Yung below. Yung sports center, yung convention.
Okay. Yes. Let's continue po. Sino po ang
Yes,
magpapresent? Kayo po? Kayo.
It is of note that in Region 2, there is no available convention center yet. We have some function areas, pero the capacity is only 200 to 300 persons. So that with this, we know for the fact that it can attract conventions, not only in the regional scale, but on a national scale. The fact that we want Santiago to move fast in its development as a city, being the premier city, we are expecting investment to come in with these facilities. And transforming Santiago into a business hub will require also a little effort and innovations that we included the Santiago City Airport Terminal, which will be located at Nabuan. That is near the 4-lane road that we could extend up to the airport terminal.
Saan barangay po ito?
Nabuan. Actually, these ideas of the executives are not purely his own. It was gathered from the previous administration. You will note that during the Miranda administration, the idea of a city airport terminal was already contemplated. But others say that because it is only 1 hour away from Hawaiian, it would not perhaps prosper. But thinking of a fast development for Santiago, the need of the businessman that will be investing in Santiago will require us perhaps to augment that by putting up a small airport terminal. Ang susunod na item ay yung mga supplements ng ating mga construction, which includes the purchase of construction equipment for a value of 10 million for the different developments that are being introduced for this quite loan of 1 billion. I would like to, so that makes a total of 1 billion, including the debt servicing of 30 million. Actually, the principal amount, if you remove the debt servicing, will be 970 million. Yung debt servicing yan will take care of the interest that we are going to pay to bank. The loan scheme, when it was presented to the council, I think the other 3 days ago or 5 days ago, was on the basis of 500 million presentation. That annually, at 6%, the debt servicing interest will be 30 billion. But the budget as presented with 1 billion external sourcing presupposes that during the first 6 months we will be working on a contract and perhaps the details of these different projects so that the interest will start in June when the amount is issued by the lending bank. So for reasons that it is only 30 million that is presented as debt servicing in the annual budget. So a total of 1 billion. And with the facts I have mentioned, like Santiago being lagging behind in its development compared to other cities, including the town of Solano, we are lagging behind, perhaps because of many reasons. But one reason is that mas aggressive po yung mga ibang cities in acquiring loans. Yung Kawayan City, for example, malaki na ho ang loan exposure nila. The same with Ilagan and Tuguegarao, they have loan exposure. Rojas, for that matter, is negotiating presently a loan with the Land Bank of the Philippines. With these opportunities, I think it will be a great disservice on our part if we don't disservice to our constituents if we don't grab the opportunity of borrowing so that we could jack up the development of Santiago City. So we are presenting this and we are putting now the plan, we are giving the plan into your hands and you can decide for the development of Santiago City. Yan lang po.
Nabanggit na po ba dun sa mga plano yun po pamantasan ng lungsod? Okay. So may mga tanong na, pwede po magbigay ng mga paglilinaw, katanungan, mga kasama pagsatal pertaining to the programs presented by the representatives from the executive department. Anyone? Yes, Councilor Lupot.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Doon po sa nag-distinguish ng lugar kung saan dapat itayo, with finality na po ba yung mga barangay na nilagay dito?
Kahit pinalisan po.
Pakiulit lang po.
Doon po sa lugar na, yung sa pagpili po ng lugar na pagtatayuan, with finality na po ba na sa barangay Baluarte talaga? O pwede ba magkaroon ng pagbabago?
Posible magkaroon ng pagbabago. This is based on the circumferential road that we are trying to develop, where the progress of the Santiago will eventually go on these areas. Kung maalala nyo, dati-dati ang provincial road is only the city road. Then a diversion road was made which is now passing through the national road. And nakita naman ninyo, punong-puno na rin yun. That was a diversion road. Ngayon, we are contemplating of putting into a reality this circumferential road. In 10 years time, magde-develop din po yan at magkakaroon ho ng mga establishment yan and so on. And so we are positioning these projects to along these areas, particularly dun sa Baluarte, dahil we have acquired already a 17-hectare property in Baluarte.
Kaya ko lang po natanong, sabi po kasi sa slogan ng Libreng Hospital, pagka po nailagay ito sa Baluarte, parang wala po yata sa sentro ng siyudad ng Santiago kung nasan talaga yung mga tao na hihipukuha ng serbisyo ng Libreng Hospital. Kasi po sa experience namin, marami nga po humihingi dito, gamot na, nabigyan mo na, pero yung pamasahin nila wala pa, dahil malayo raw yung kanilang pinanggagalingan. Kung dadalhin po natin sa isang lugar na napaka-layo o wala sa sentro ng komunidad, paano po ma-avail naman ng katulad ng taga-Barangay Rizal, Amulungan, Gawad Kalinga, Kirap, yung Libreng Hospital sa Baluarte, ng arkila nila ng tricycle siguro, bago nila madala yung pasyente nila. baka sobra na sa pambili nila ng gamot. Kaya ako lang po natanong kung establishado na po ba yung mga lugar na ito o magbabago pa. Yun lamang po. Sa urban planning po, kasama po yung expansion ng city natin dito sa development. You will note that dito sa sentro or the metropolis, masyado na kong concentrated ang mga buildings natin and masyado na expensive din ang lupa. And we thought of putting it in Baluarte because we have already acquired 17 hectares, I think, in Baluarte during the term of Miranda. And to add, ayaw po natin mangyari yung mga plano natin puro poste lang ang nakalitaw because it is phase 1 and the phase 2 will come the next year and so on. Kaya the whole idea of this 1 billion loan is to finish the projects in 1 or 2 years at makikinabang na po ang taong bayan while we are paying for the debt for the next 10 years. Now, doon sa pagbabayad naman po ng loan, ay paliwanag po yata ng representative ng bank. Although we are not yet close on what bank we will enter into a loan, or to what extent perhaps we will source the external sourcing, pwede rin bank flotation, it could be any other source perhaps. But principally, because we can have a basis, if it is a bank loan, masasabi na niya yung interest, masasabi na niya yung term, and then the conditions later on. So yun lang po, ang may lalagdag po.
Okay. May tanong pa po, di ba?
Tanong ko
Yes.
pag-uusapan ba natin yung issue ng ating pag-usapan tungkol sa pagsama ng loan sa o ibang hawak ng
Actually, yun yung susunod after the presentation. Mukhang ang hilig na hapon ay pag-close door na pag-uusap ng mga konsehal para pag-usapan yun at kung makailanganin ang presence ng City Budget Officer ng Accounting Office para maglinaw sa possibilities na mailiwalay siya.
naman siguro lagi wala natin kasama.
Yeah.
Kasi pangit naman kung mag-take advantage tayo sa hindi naman tayo naman sa council.
Yes.
With that asset, without conceding my reservations on the legality of the budget, I have some questions. Number one, I noticed that the 1 billion loan was divided into 6 projects, 7 for land banking, the other for equipment and debt services. So 6 projects. 6. So my first question is, with the amount allotted for a specific project, for example, City Hospital, 250,000. The 250,000 means that the City Hospital will be fully operational after 250,000.
250.
Half million, tapos ang hospital. We're only talking of basement of the hospital. So 250 million phase, how many phases? Sorry.
Doon sa details nito, it includes the building of the 50-bed hospital, construction of water supply,
Kasi, I will rephrase na lang po my question.
bridge, yeah.
I will rephrase. In your plans to build the city hospital, how many phases? How many stages or how many segments?
With the initial study that was conducted. For the first phase of construction, for year 1, construction of all wires, services, except for some Catholic facilities, cafeteria, and buildings. This will be amounting to 70 million. And the next, for the year 2, although for the 70 million in year 1, operation na lang po kasi yung mga kasama na yun sa water supply, power supply, gas, resolution.
So with 250 million, tapos na.
Yes, sir.
Next one, sports complex. 150 million, tapos na sports complex. Or are we talking of first phase, second phase, or 350 million?
Sports complex 150, yes, sir.
Tapos, wala nang nagkalagalan construction. Finish, operational. Convention center, 150 million, tapos,
Yes, sir.
tapos, operational na. Wala nang nagkalagalan ng pamantasan ng Lungsod, 50 million, tapos ang pamantasan.
So this is from Thousand Biometric,
So this 50 million, you're not sure whether it's only for the first phase or second phase.
yes.
You just put an amount just to start the. So with 50 million for the pamantasan, we're not sure kung tapos. So posibleng may additional amount ng 50 million. City Airport, 50 million. Tapos ang airport? Definitely. Pag lang siguro to, 1/4. Purchase of equipment, 100 million. Sufficient?
Should support the service road.
Sufficient kaya? Sufficient. Or there will be additional equipment later. Sufficient to pay. For all of these projects, for all of these facilities, 100 million. Marami na yata. Hindi kayo babalik sa amin para humingi ng additional amount.
For road.
Road construction, segments 2, 3, and 4. Sufficient, 120 million. Or babalik mo tayo sa
road
amin.
construction in the
Sufficient? No. Land banking, 100 million. Sufficient?
For this project, sir.
For all of
For
this?
this,
No. Therefore, there will come a time, I'm not saying 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you will again ask isang bilyang council for an additional amount. Specifically, uutang naman muli tayo para sa karagdagang amount para matapos ang mga project. Posible ba yun? What you're sure of, or what you're certain of at this point in time, is that some of these projects will not be completed with the 1 billion. And you're not sure where will the other amounts will be coming from, and when are you going to ask the payment for this?
yes, sir.
Makawala na ako kasi still ako. So, well, luckily, wala at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ay, one more thing. I forgot. Why did we include debt servicing in the 1 billion? Yung inutang natin, yung pambabayan natin. Yung ba?
Kasama dun sa mga ating presentation yun na yung debt servicing should appear in the budget. If we intend to have a loan, there must be corresponding debt servicing.
Kaya,
Pero,
sir na,
Bali, ang total project cost lang yan will be 970 million.
Okay ba? Yung inutang mo, hindi yung pambabayan.
Dahil sa bangko ang collateral niyan is actually yung tira natin. Hindi naman real property, it will be the tira. On that basis, they see that the city can repay it back through BIRA. In fact, the bank, when asked how much they can give us, they said 1.5 billion. O ganun pala, maganda ang credito ng Santiago. But the mayor chose to have only 1 billion.
Kaya nga, yung 1 billion, malinaw sa bangko na 30 million din kanila. Kanila, actually, kanila. 970 million na yung ibigay sa Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, may katanungan pa. Kasi po, parang ang sinaniniwala yata ni Manong Lam, isang sa bangko, pag nangutang ka, niaawas na kagad yung
Yes.
interest. Kaya yun na lang yung, na yun na rin yung pambayad.
Sa kanya, sa employer, sa police.
Not necessarily. Matter of presentation ng matang yan. Dahil sa, we are borrowing 1 million at 6%, that is 60 million. But June to December na ako yan. Establish muna, saka approval, saka within 6 months. So, when it is granted, for each quarter, they already charge interest for the next 2 years. Interest pa lang. And then there is a graduating, declining balance in the principal na binabayaran namin. Palaki ng palaki yun, nag-umpisa tayo maliit. To give us the time to build up also our resources from internal sourcing. Ayan. But principally, the reason why they are granting this because we have a big era to support it and so on.
Sa paglilinaw lang po, sa pakikipag-usap sa ating local chief executive, he was mentioning about credit limit lang yan. No? Hindi automatic na ilalabas agad yung 1 billion. Di po ba? Tama po ba yung aking binanggit?
Yes, actually, we are discussing an annual plan. It does not necessarily mean that when we say it's a loan of 1 billion, the 1 billion ilalabas na kagad lahat yan. It will be depending on the priorities of the project. Kung ang gusto ni Mayor ang mauna ito, then he will ask the Sangguniang perhaps to make a resolution granting him the authority to sign a loan agreement with the bank regarding this project. Unti-unti po yan. And on that basis, computed din sa bangko kung kailan nag-umpisa yung release and kung kailan na-umpisahan yung mga karagdagan mga utang na gagawin.
Paglilinaw lang po, hindi po ba dapat ang nagtatakda ng priority project o nagre-recommenda for priority project ay ang City Development Council, not necessarily saying kung ano priority ni Mayor? Yun ang gusto ko lang po kasi
Hindi naman sinabi priority ni Mayor. I said kung alin ang priority sa ating yun ang mga maumpisahan. For example, I for one, being in the private sector before, I think the priority is the circumference road. Because we are already encountering problems sa traffic natin. Kaya siguro yan ang una sa lahat. Ikuha natin.
So, kulang yung 1 billion.
Pwede siguro ang ganda natin.
Sige, kami na magdidesisyon.
Kasi di po ba, sinasabi natin, sa pagpapaliwanag ko kasi, sa pagpapag-usap with, since this is a credit loan na, kumbaga, ano yung kakayanin muna, every step of the way po kasi, iko-consulta sa sanggunian. So, binibigyan po tayo ng vision na dahil na napakalimitado ng 3 taon para magawa ang lahat, ngayon pa lang, pinakikita na sinisilitan natin, anong direction natin, ano yung kapasidad natin, ano yung kakayanan natin. At kaya siya naka-incorporate yung 1 billion proposal ay dahil din sa requirements ng DLGF na dapat lahat ng mga proyekto ay nakapapaloob sa annual investment plan. Pero bahagi pa rin noon, hindi ko muna ilagay doon, ay hindi na ulit ko konsultahin ang konsepo. Every step of the way po, lahat yan, ang pag-aproba ng mga programa, ng kontrata sa bangko, babalik pa rin naman po yun sa konsepo at makukonsulta. At ito po ay may pagsusok ng City Development Council na nakapaloob naman po ang ating mga kapitan, ang mga miyembro ng Civil Society Organization.
May I add, Chairman?
Yes.
so that I can remove the apprehension of some of our honorable councilors regarding whether it's legal or not legal to include the one, the add-on external sourcing. Kasi professionally, I can speak for that. And in fact, I asked for 3 COA officers in our nearby areas for a second opinion regarding this. Because I think otherwise that when we make an appropriation ordinance, it particularly centers to the expenditures that we are trying to control. The limits and the account and the projects are the one being legislated. The incomes therein in the budget are all estimates, even internal sourcing are estimates. We have not earned it yet. We are only anticipating that we can earn that much. Even the IRA, pagka hindi umaryada ang koleksyon ng national government, it could be affected. So, even that is an estimate of DBM. Ito namang external sourcing, we inquired from some banks, and they are willing, they are giving us the opportunity to take outside sourcings from them, particularly Land Bank of the Philippines. So, we cannot possibly put limits to these expenses and legislate these expenses to be the limits of their expenses kung wala naman yung corresponding income dun sa kabila. So these are all funds which when legislated can control our movements if the expectation of income can be realized. So dun sa parte ng external sourcing, pwedeng gutay-gutay din yan according to the projects presented. Pero what the executive officer wants is, once a project is started, kailangan tapos para makinawang ng taong bayan. Hindi yung nakatayo lang at nakatiwang-wang dyan na puro poste. Masabi lang na nagamit natin yung Economic Development Fund. But yung kumpleto na magagamit natin, kagaya ng hospital, kagaya ng convention center, yung circumferential road, nandiyan na yan in place. Although it will take us 10 years to pay it, hindi na bale, basta natin kinabahan na. And we are in a capacity to pay it within 10 years. So necessarily, when the need arises, na the mayor of the executive rather wants to start on a project, yun siguro, hihingi na ng permiso sa inyo after the study has been made. At hihingi na yung permiso nyo. With this data, will you give the mayor the right now to enter into a loan agreement of 120 million so that we can start the diversion road? Yun na niya sasabihin nyo. Hindi sabay-sabay po ito.
Okay. May tanong po? Councilor Hex.
Thank you. I have just some clarifications with regard. I'm not sure if the persons here would be the right people to ask, because this is with regard to the legality of actually putting up an additional hospital. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not the Santiago, I'm sorry, the Southern Isabela SI General Hospital. Was that not recently, or it was offered by the national government through the Department of Health, a turnover? It was supposed to be turned over to the city of Santiago, and there was an additional 270 million revamping or remodeling of such, which would increase the bed capacity from like 25 to 100.
Meron po ba makakasagot ng detalye? Mukhang wala tayong resource person para iba to yung katanungan kami, and that we take note of it, we try to inquire sa SKTH kung may mga ganun ba ang mga background ng SKTH.
Thank you, Madam Chair, because I believe that uh, there was actually some sort of agreement between Secretary Ona and the local government unit, and it was even funded. It was given an additional 270 million to ramp up their facilities. So if that's being the case, and is there not also a prohibition under a Department of Health guidelines stating that you can only have one government-owned hospital and it must service a radius of about 70 square kilometers? Is that not correct?
I think within 30 kilometers.
30 kilometers, so it's even less than that. So within 30, so it's 30, it's not 70.
No, Your Honor.
So the hospital, the proposed hospital, which is supposed to be placed up in Baluarte, wouldn't that fall under the radius and the prohibition, thus causing some sort of a legal impediment? I think we should check that out first before we actually look at that. These are just concerns, you know. I'm really concerned about that. And I remember it was being another thing about this is I remember this hospital was supposed to be 50 beds. Am I not? Yeah, 50 beds. Is a 50-bed hospital? Okay, so 50 to 75 bed hospital, and it would only cater to not necessarily serious or fatal problems, but really just the CNAT or something like that, or the flu, influenza, or typical simple cases. But if looking at our medical history as a city, we already have about 6 or 7 existing hospitals. And if you look at the history, most of the ailments that our people, or at least the citizens, the residents of Santiago City are facing, are they not these specialized cases, which is why they are forced to look for additional income? Like, for example, you have, people need, we don't even have a special kidney center for dialysis. We don't have a cancer center. We don't have all of these other, which are so expensive and they are so, financially draining on any, whether you're rich, middle class, or poor. It is definitely a very big financial drain. So perhaps this really wouldn't solve the solution, right? This really wouldn't be the best solution to address our city's need for proper medical health care. Because kung dadagdagan lang natin ang mga hospital beds at gagamutin lang natin yung mga typical sicknesses, hindi natin nasasagot kasi ako mismo, I have personal experiences that I have a very high regard for the doctors here, but the thing is, they do not have the technological capacity, even the diagnostic capacity. We really don't have a really good diagnostic center here. Sometimes you go from one hospital to the next, and they can't even tell you what your ailment is, and you're forced to go to Manila, or you're forced to go to that other hospital somewhere down there. I think it's in Nueva Vizcaya, which they actually have. They have better facilities than us. So wouldn't it be more prudent? Maybe we should look into the possibility that this is actually, it would be better and less expensive if we just accept the offer of the Department of Health. They turn it over to the city of Santiago, the existing building, plus the additional funding of 270 million without having to borrow. This is just something off the top of my head, because I recall hearing that in a meeting which I was privy to with Secretary several months ago. So,
Maybe just an answer to some of the points that you have raised. SITH kasi is a district hospital. If that will be turned over to the city government, we will be forced to address the other concerns of the nearby municipalities, because that is a district hospital. So what we wanted is a hospital that will really attend to the residents of Santiago.
exclusively, but that will also be a legal impediment because of that particular thing of the DOH saying that regardless of if you are regardless if you are exclusively for the residents of the city of Santiago, as long as you still have to cater to that 35 kilometer or square mile or square kilometer radius. So whether or not, it really doesn't depend on whether we say this is exclusively for Santiago City residents, because the national law mandates us to service anyone, regardless of whether they're from Santiago or not. So we're really stuck there. So we really have to make the best of a good situation. Let's just try to, this is just my suggestion and my opinion. I mean, I'm not the mayor, this is just how I see things. And maybe we should look into this further. Maybe we should look into what we have available, because the improvements that are currently being done, I mean, it's just a matter of accepting, I believe, accepting the offer of the Department of Health to take over this hospital. And then we'd be killing two birds with one stone. The political promises have been made. We wouldn't have to borrow so much money, and we're going to focus probably on the roads, which I think we should do. And then we save ourselves from a humongous amount of debt. That's all, I think. I'm sure.
Thank you. Take note of your comments and observations. What are the other concerns or questions of the other members? Yes, sounds very good.
May nabanggit po kayo, Madam Chair, may nabanggit po si Sir na kanina. May tinanong po para si Atty. Nicky, kay engineer, yung pamantasan ng Luzon, Maynila. Ay, pamantasan ng Luzon sa Santiago, na portion pa lang po yung magagawa dun sa 50 million. Meron po bang demand para sa city airport na dito sa siyudad ng Santiago na kailangan magtayo mo na agad tayo? Kung yun po ay hindi naman kailangan, bakit hindi po dito lang, sabi po nila, gusto po nila, pag nagtayo ng isang project, yung magagamit na ng mga estudyante. Sa pamantasan ng Luzon ng Santiago, kung hindi rin pala magagamit kung 50 million na i-allocate, then mag-i-start na ng isang airport terminal na another 50 million, bakit hindi na lang tapusin yung pamantasan ng Luzon ng Santiago? May demand po ba na very tayo sa airport na kailangan? Kasi po, may experience po, bibiyahin po ako mga previous months sa Kawayan. Nang ilan-ilan lang po yung taga-Santiago na nakikita mo na kasabay ko. Siguro isa, dalawa hanggang 5. Pero sa demand, kung demand po yun, hindi po siguro dahil ilan lang po yung nag-a-avail ng Kawayan Airport going to Manila. Kasi mostly po lahat na negosyante naman dito. Gusto nila, pag pumunta naman nila, may dala silang sasakyan. Pag nabili nila gusto nila, wala silang hirap na nagdadala sa mga airport and terminals. Yun lang po ang tanong.
Okay. Any reaction? Hindi kaya yung mga gagaling sa Manila inaasahan natin going to Santiago rather than residents of Santiago going to Manila? The other way around. Pwede kasi
Yun lang
the
po-
investors
yun lang po yung gusto kong malaman. Kung may study ba na may demand tayo na kailangan nyo na magkaroon ng airport sa Santiago, kasi ako, lagi ako nagpupunta dyan. Ang haba ng biyahe. May nag-queries ba or may mga suggestions na pumasok, kaya naisipan po natin na mag-priority o bigyan nilang pansin na magkaroon tayo ng airport dito sa siyudad.
Po yung airport. Na kung pumasok mo yung idea ng airport dyan hindi pa tayo city nun Mananda. But now that we are a city and we want it to develop as fast as being suggested, necessarily kailangan na po ng airport. Dahil for top executives of investors na who have entered Santiago, gusto nila convenient yan. Na instead of traveling 1 hour to Cagayan City, sa Santiago na mismo. And another thing, we met some cases before na meron tayong pasyente, kailangan itakbo pa natin ang Kawayan bago he can be airlifted to Manila. Kung meron tayong airport dyan, hindi na problema yung malapit na lang. At sa airport terminal from Santiago to Manila, pwede na natin ilipad yung pasyente natin. So there are many things to consider. although this is not top priority, it comes along with the important things that we should consider if we want to develop fast in Santiago.
Okay, the other queries coming from the members of the council. Yung matanong pa po, Councilor Rex.
Yes, just also with regard to the business aspect of the sports complex, the convention center, and well, land banking is already self-explanatory. But with regard to the sports complex and convention center, was there a feasibility study that was actually submitted, or was there some sort of study where you could actually compute for the projected income that this thing could generate? And was this submitted to the bank, which is why they have offered this to? I mean, do we have any feasibility study, so to speak, especially like with the convention center, because these are really good things, and every city should have, you know, something like that as, you know, to showcase the greatness of Santiago. However, perhaps this might not be the proper mode in order for us to acquire these things. Perhaps we should first look into possible private-public partnerships, as previously mentioned, before actually taking out the loan. Or perhaps we can, I mean, there's so many other income-generating mechanisms that we can look into before actually placing ourselves at the mercy of financial institutions. And although we do rely on the ERA, I will not mention anymore because I promise, but you know, these things aren't set in stone. And we cannot afford to be so complacent. We're going to be guilty of counting our chicks before they've actually hatched. And this is something that I must tread on, or tread towards very, very carefully. And I also urge all of my colleagues in the council to do the same. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
You have any reaction at the statements of Councilor Rex? Ano na?
There is no detailed study made, but our observation is such that when we were still with the Abaya collision, we call it Abaya collision, the one that was burned, we intended to have with us the PBA players and exhibit their games in Santiago. Pero with the facility that we have then, hindi cannot accommodate such a game. But you know, for one, dahil marami namang mahilig sa basketball sa Santiago, gusto nila mapunta rito ang PBA players kumari. And with that, it can be income generating. Now that we lost the collision due to the fire, the immediate need for one that could replace it comes in. And considering the sport consciousness of Santiago residents or constituents, plus the desire that PBA will come here and other games perhaps, and Santiago becoming a sports center for that matter in Region 2, reasons which made us include the sports center as one of the priorities in the 1 billion loan.
The agreement, rather than go straight to the bank and build something and build something on our own. We could actually we have property. This is just from a personal experience with the land bank. We own this property in Centro. It's in front, and we've been approached by land bank because they would like to purchase that particular property and build their headquarters there. We offered a counter proposal, and we asked land bank, okay, we will give you perpetual use of lot. For the first 3 floors, you construct the building using green architecture. We don't pay a cent. We have the building, we still own the building. So, I mean, let's be more creative here. There's so many other things that we can do rather than just But I'm not saying this is bad. I'm just saying that in order for us to achieve this, perhaps hindi ganun kabigat sa ating bulsa at hindi mabigat sa bulsa ng ating kababayan. Ano po?
Take note of your comments. Other questions from the members? Wala na kong tanong?
Suggestion lang, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm sure this will not be the last time na pag-uusapan.
Yeah.
Susunod na pag-uusapan, sana meron naman sa latest. Mas maganda sana.
Trying to take note of the request of our members of the council. Yes.
Itong pinag-uusapan natin is a budget planning for 2014. And we were thinking of presenting it as transparent as possible to show the whole plan of the city. And it would be impossible for us to present the feasibility study for reasons that it is yet still a plan. Now, when we come to the details, perhaps, when we go now to the entering into the loan, then perhaps we could present that, giving the technical and other analysis on these individual projects. But in the meantime, because we are now in the process of adopting a budget, we presented this to show the projects which the executive wants in the fulfillment of a fast development of the city. As you can see, all these things were presented with the end view of catching up dun sa pagkakahuli natin sa development. We are 20 years old, and with that length of time, we should prove that Santiago is the best city in the region. It being a central hub of nearby places, including one province, which is Quirino, and Ifugao on the other side, hindi tayo umungga. Mas mabilis pa kaysa sa ibang mga syudad. Thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat po. I have not had any objection to the projects that were presented. Wala naman po. Lahat ay kinikilala. Lahat ay mahalaga. Mukhang doon lang po nagkakaroon ng pagtatanong na iunawaan natin yung laki ng halaga ng igamit. But then again, credit line lang siya, hindi pa automatic na 1 billion agad, no? Dahil lahat naman ng mga proyektong isasagawa, naturally, babalik yan sa sanggunian to secure our authorization. And once they ask for authorization, that's the time that we will be asking for the details. The feasibility study. So for now, ang hinahabol lang po natin ay ma-incorporate ito sa annual investment plan for possible consideration should we approve on the proposed loan. So, lahat po ito babalik pa, hindi lang minsan. Pero mainam na po na nailabas yung mga katanungan para pag bumalik sa feasibility study, masasagot. Paano natin mababayaran ito, magkano, kada taon, hanggang kailan. Sigurado ko yun ang mga katanungan ng mga kasama. Ilan ang magiging interest, ilan ang principal na babayaran taon-taon, gaano katagal. Itong mga bagay na ito ay may represent sa atin once meron ng target na loan talaga dahil hindi automatic na 1 billion. Kasi baka ang present lang sa atin 500 million, lumalabas, nasa 70 to 80 million a year na ang maiahawa sa ating EDF. No? Pero i-advance lang natin just so may makita na tayong development dahil hindi lang yata tayo 10 taon na huli sa pagpunlan. Yun yung hinahabol natin, kaya may proposal ng pagpunta. So definitely, lahat po ito, babalik pa sa konseho para dun sa pagbabarya ng plano. Mabuhuan pa lang siyang present sa atin ngayon, babaryahin yan sa mga darating pang araw. At panahon na ang hinahabol natin Dahil nga, yung requirement na nakapaloob sana ito, yung mga target projects dun sa annual investment plan. But definitely, kung anong mapupunta sa mga ito, dadaan pa rin po ito sa Local Development Council, sa ating Chief Executive, at finally, sa pagsusog ng Konseho. So with that, may tanong pa po before, yes.
Ma'am, just to clarify what you just did, because that would change the entire face of this whole debate. Because if you're saying that we're not actually taking out the loan yet per se, but we're just agreeing to set up a line of credit for possible
Yes.
projects,
Yes.
would that be the situation? Would that be what this whole thing is about?
Yeah.
That's just to clarify, because then we wouldn't really owe anything. It would just be opening up a line of credit. Am I correct?
Ganun pa rin. Kailangan ko isama sa budget. Bakit ka pa rin sa tanong nila? Sa line of credit o budget budget.
Ano?
Babalik ka na.
Actually, babalik tayo sa nire-require natin sa kanila na ruling ng ABM that this should be included. It's unfortunate wala ang ating budget officer dito. Again, pero bahagi kasi yun dun sa bago kasi mangyari lahat ng pagpunang halimbawa man, meron tayong isa-satisfy na local finance circular, yung certification of maximum borrowing and debt service capacities of local government units.
Sino nag-i-issue?
Department of Finance. So, I think everybody was already provided with this one last.
No.
Kindly reproduce this naman. Naka-incorporate po dito, naka-incorporate po dyan na lahat ng programa pupundohan, halimbawa man, ng isang pagputang ay dapat nakapaloob sa annual investment plan. Isa yun sa requirement. At yun yung hinahapon natin. Pero, series of discussions pa ito dahil nga hindi naman makaka-enter into any contract ng ating punong lungsod without the concurrence of the Sanggunian. So yun, nabanggit ko na pagbabarya sa lahat ng proyektong nabanggit ay doon mangyayari, including the feasibility study. Yes?
Nadidinig ako dun sa mga ibang councilors natin na baka pwedeng ihiwalay natin yung loan. That could be done, but when you separate the loan in the picture of the budget, you have to take it separately and then later on you will have to supplement that in the budget again. Pero dito ngayon, it is a full pie. You can see the picture. Kung ayaw nyo ibigay yung patas mo sa mayor, manghiram pwede. Because you have the prerogative to prevent the mayor from borrowing. Kaya ako bibigay ng permiso sa kanya. Kung gusto naman yung unti-untiin, pwede rin. But this one now is a budget where you agree with the plan of borrowing as an external source, possible external source, to support this possible projects. Ganun lang po ang picture niyan. And once approved, it sets our limitations. Hanggang dito lang tayo. That's why Councilor Mini was asking, yan lang ba ang kailangan nyo? Matatapos ba yan? Dahil once you approve it, for 2014, hanggang doon lang siya. Makakatso yung project kung kulang. But once it is sufficient, tapos yung project. So, it gives us limitations. But necessarily, the power is still in your hands to grant the mayor the power to enter into the agreement kung gusto niyo.
So, di tanong pa po, because kung wala na, ay excuse na po natin ang mga from the executive department so that councilors will have time to discuss, pag-usapan, wala yung ibang mga konsehal, will it be possible na so what is the pleasure of the group?
Madam Chair, gusto respectfully move that we enter into an executive